And it turned out that became a gift when I became a coach, because I see you. I see where you're powerful, even if you don't see it in yourself. Yeah. So this is where it gets interesting for me. 2 or 3 years ago, I began to use this phrase that worked for me. I said, I coach kings. That just felt like a good phrase to really, that kind of captures who I work with. It included powerful women as well as powerful men. It's just, I coach kings and queens, which is too wordy. It's just, I coach kings. That was it. That captured it for me. This is who I work with. But I believe in a created world. So I was sitting down with a woman once. We were talking about one of my Confident Woman salons. We had this great coaching conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I say to her, look, I don't think this is right for you. It's just, the program's not right for you. I turned her away. And she was sad, she was disappointed, but we agreed to part. It was fine. She called me a day later and said, look, if you're still around, can we have another conversation? And it was in New York. I said, look, I've got a bit more time. Let's speak. And we met up, and she said, look, I didn't share all of myself with you. I told you the places where I'm struggling, the places where I'm feeling held back, the problems, the challenges in my life, because I thought that's what I do with a coach, but that's not all of me. And she then went on to describe what an amazing woman she was, all the incredible things she'd done in her life. And now I lit up. I was like, oh, wow, I love this. Yeah, you're in. So I call it creating clients for a reason. In my book, I call it the glimpse of genius. Your job is to look for the genius in the person in front of you and draw it out of them. So you can create a king, even if you don't see one sitting in front of you, because he's in there. Your job is to draw him out.
So fascinating. I got an email like that recently also, where I was doing some enrollment, and I just knew this person, they weren't ready for what I had. And they sent me an email the day later, and they're just, thank you so much. That was so powerful. And I felt like I really held back. I wish I could do it over again. It's a really interesting thing. You talk about finding the genius in front of the king or the queen in front of you. How do you do that? And I know it's a generic question, but for the person who's watching, who's interested in doing that and kind of stepping it up to the next level, how do you go about finding that genius to bring it out?
Well, I'll tell you how I do it, and everyone's different. How I do it, and it comes from one of my greatest struggles in life. I've spent much of my life feeling powerless. Feeling that I lacked something, lacking confidence, whatever it was. There was this thing that drove me from this sense of lack. And it turned out that became a gift when I became a coach, because I see you. I see where you're powerful, even if you don't see it in yourself. I search for it, I look for it. I'm a bit like Sherlock Holmes when I'm searching for it. But the moment I see it, I hold on. It's like I'm a dog with a bone. It's like you might try and fool me, and you might try and fool me again and again and again. But I promise you, I see where you're a genius. I see where you're powerful. And I refuse to let go of anything else other than that person I'm talking to right now. So it comes from some of my pain and some of my struggle, but I see it. And when I catch it in the person in front of me, then that's the gift I give them. I promise them that I won't ever speak to them as anything less. They could show up with their struggles, their challenges, with their stories. I promise I won't buy into them. I promise I make this solemn commitment to the person in front of me, that the only person I'm ever going to speak to is the powerful person that I see.
Yeah, dude. Is that brilliant coaching? Because I know that's something that you're really passionate about. And I wanted to ask you, what is brilliant coaching? And does that tie into what you were just explaining?
So how I'll answer it is this, because I don't do coach trainings. I don't really train people to coach, because the theme tune at all of my events is Sammy Davis Jr. singing "I Gotta Be Me." And that's underneath everything I teach. I wish I'd put that into the book. It didn't hit me till afterwards that it came out in published form. And I was like, oh, I forgot. Of course, it's underneath everything I do. I'm not teaching people to be like me. So that's why my questions around coaching today, when you're asking me them, I'm very careful to say, like, hey, it's not like do this. You've got to find out what works for you. Everyone is different. Everyone is different. But I show up in a certain way, and I do things my way. Is that brilliant coaching? I don't know. It works for my people. Will it work for yours? You'll have to find out. I've certainly modeled people and modeled coaching styles along the way, but I find out what works for me and what doesn't, and let it go.
Cool. So when I looked at your website and I'm doing my little Sherlock Holmes before our interview and checking it out, you've got some incredible results on there. And just looking through, you've helped people sign a $100,000 client, or your apprentice generating $250,000 in 5 months, or another person bringing in $160,000 client that was her second client ever. I mean, these are pretty exponential results, as you would call them. And I feel like a lot of people who are watching this, myself included, I'm just not familiar with getting someone that level of a result. It could be that level of a result in the domain that we're working, but these are kind of bigger numbers that I just haven't played with yet. How do you help someone, or how do you do that? I mean, what was it like for you to go to that place of working with numbers that are that large, and how do you help these people get that kind of result?
I remember years ago, Michael Neal saying to me, have you interviewed Michael Neal? Are you interviewing Michael?
I've interviewed him for our last project, and I'll interview him for this one also.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember years ago, Michael saying that he'd coached numerous authors to create wonderful books. When it dawned on him, he hadn't written his own book. So you don't always have to have gone there first. Sometimes you have to go there first with a client and be able to create that result for yourself first. Sometimes it's so much easier helping somebody else to create that than it is for myself. One of my newest apprentices just signed her first $500,000 client.
What? Come on, dude. $500,000?
So, and I'm jealous of that one, like, because I haven't got a $500,000 client yet.
How did you do that? How does that happen? And I know each case is specifically going to be different, but what is the essence of that? How did that happen?
I mean, it's not how I did it; it's how she did it. It's the way that I teach in the book. Is she built relationship with somebody over a long period of time, served them powerfully enough that when it came time to talk about working together, who this particular person is, anything less than $500,000 wouldn't have had them show up powerfully, wouldn't have had them do what they, get the results they get. So for them, it was like that had to be the number. It's not like a magic number for anybody. It's not, but for that particular person, that was the number. So so let me take it back to your original question and just take it in. Here's the way I see coaching. Coaching is easy for me because you come to me with a goal. It doesn't matter what it is. You want to have something you haven't got right now, whether that's a six-pack, being in a wonderful relationship, making more money. Those are the three things, right? It's our bodies, our relationships, and our business. I know, just the belief I have, the only reason you don't have it is because at some level you don't want it. That's a hard one for people to get their head around. If you say I want to have a six-figure practice, you don't have it. It's because you don't want it. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. It's a truth that I play out for me and my clients. And that helps them get clear and find out, like, oh, well, I do want it. No, you don't. If you wanted it, you'd have it. But at this level, deep down here, you have, I've had clients who, you may be familiar with this, a fear of success. If I get too successful, then I'll get hurt. Fear of failure. If I really go for it, then I'll screw up and everyone will judge me. A story about money. Worked with a client whose father made a lot of money and then died. And he had this deep story, deep fear inside of him. He made a lot of money, he'd die. I work with my clients to find out the level at what that's going on. So I can sit down with somebody who says, I want something, and know that they don't want it. But if I can help them find out why they don't want it, it's going to come anyway. And the second piece is how we see our world creates our world. And we're all seeing the world through a filter. Like, I'm wearing glasses right now, and as soon as I said that word, suddenly I begin aware of the what do we call it? These sides of the glasses, the edge of the glasses here. I'm aware of it, and in a minute's time, 2 minutes time, I'll have forgotten about it again. Well, you're wearing glasses too. You just don't see it, and your glasses have a filter onto the world. How many people have you met in the last 5 years who said, my business is struggling, but it's the worst economic crisis in recent history, or words to that effect? Well, if that's the filter through which you see the world, you're going to show up in a certain way. You're going to ask certain questions and not ask other questions. You're going to take certain actions and not take other actions. I just know that you're wearing glasses even though you can't see them. And so I'm going to look and see, like, how are you seeing your world? Because the moment I see how you see your world, I can help you shift it. And if you shift it ever so slightly, 1 degree to the left, everything will change. That means it's easy for me to help work with people on goals that look outrageous, that look impossible, that look exponential.
So what was that shift for the apprentice of yours who just signed on that $500,000 client? What was the shift in taking that to a point where that actually happened?
I think it was the moment when she realized it wasn't about, it was kind of like there was a moment to get to like, oh, I deserve this. And then there was a place behind that where it's like, deserving is not even part of the equation. Like, it's not like I deserve this. It's just, here's someone who I can really serve, who knows the value of our work together, and anything less wouldn't have them show up powerfully. And she just said a number out loud. I mean, so it's a hard one to describe because there's here we have simplicity, right? Then we have complexity. And so you know, I want to create clients, and then like, what's the system for doing it? I get into this whole system. Like, do I do 25-minute free taster sessions? Do I serve people powerfully for 2 hours? How do I make a proposal? Is it in writing? Is it? That's the complexity of it. And then there's this simplicity again on the other side. That's the only place I'm ever heading to. It's the piece beyond the book, the simplicity where you just sit down with somebody and you know. I spent 10 days with this woman who I just met, and after 10 days, I just knew, and I proposed to her. She's now my wife. If you told me, hey, dude, I just met this girl, we've been together for 10 days, I think I'm going to propose to her, I tell you, even now, I'd probably be saying to you, are you crazy? Like, go and live with her first. Like, get to know her first. Meet her friend. Like, but there's sometimes you just know. She just knew.
Hey, thanks for listening. Before you go, I've got over a decade's worth of tools and ideas to help you drastically increase your income and your impact as a coach over at richlitvin.com. And hit the subscribe button, because when you do, you'll automatically get notified every time I release a new podcast episode. See you next time.